Good evening, Social Change Warriors. Welcome to another edition of Social Change Warriors Presents the Angry Bitch Club on Wednesday evenings. I'm your host, Catherine Felton Page, and I welcome you back. If this is your first time, thank you so much for joining us and giving our channel a try. We know you have tons of options out there with live streaming these days for true crime and current trials and advocacy for victims of homicides. So we really appreciate you joining us tonight. And welcome back to all of the regular friends that are always in our friend zone on Wednesdays, some Thursdays, and every Friday night. We truly appreciate your longevity. We've been here for a year now. It'll be our year anniversary on August 28th of live streaming. So I gratefully appreciate all of you. We can't do advocacy alone. We have to have a crowd. We have to have a community. We have to all stand together. So welcome back. I've got some new cases to bitch with you tonight about, some actions that have and have not been taken on some of our other cases that we've been following for almost a year now. Most of them are coming on a year that we've been following them because they were already in existence before we started live streaming, and we'll get to those soon. So I just wanted to start out with our musical opening and reminding you of all of the victims of homicides and their families that we're standing for. And I'll be right back.
They try to silence the truth we shout, but we're still here, we're still calling out. Corruption hides behind a badge of name. We light the fire, expose the shame. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight for every voice lost in the night. My life mattered is the cry we sing for the ones they tried to bury within. It's just us, we're a movement wide. Together we rise, won't run nor hide. The stories echo, the pain runs deep. For stolen lives we can't just weep. Elected power, but their hearts are cold. We'll bring the truth, let it be told. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight for every voice lost in the night. My life mattered is the cry we sing for the ones they tried to bury within. It's just us, we're a movement wide. Together we rise, won't run nor hide. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight for heal wounds, undo the harm. Calling out corruption, We'll stand tall for justice and truth. We'll risk it all. My life mattered is the cry we sing. Together we rise, let freedom ring.
Okay, we're back. So thanks, everyone. Just wanted to remind you all of the victims of homicide and their families that we're standing for that do not have any justice yet. And we will continue to advocate for them and help their families to the best of our ability for as long as it takes to get them justice. And then hopefully at that point, they'll move into our memorial wall that we are building for our victims as their cases reach resolution. And sadly, let me bring up to the stage here a moment, and let me bring up his photo. We do have resolution on one of the cases that we were working with the family on. And just bring me a second here, and I want to bring up Hunter's photo. My condolences to Hunter, his family, and all of his friends and colleagues in the Davie, Florida area. Hunter was having some depression, and he went missing from his family's home in late June. And I'm just looking for his photo here so I can bring that up for all of you. Give me just a second. So this is Hunter, and he was having a depression situation in June and left his home on his own without his phone or his wallet. And he sadly became a missing person very shortly thereafter. His family reported him missing, and they've been searching for him. I came upon their search on Facebook and contacted the family and asked if there was anything I could do to help. So we have shown his photo since June. We were able to get some missing flyers from Hunter's father, and we posted them around my area just on the offset, chance that maybe he made it his way up here. Sometimes when people are going through depression and things just aren't going well for them, they'll just try to go find a friend. Maybe he had friends up here, someone the family didn't know of, or they'll go to a familiar location somewhere that made them happy. So I had a small hope that maybe he was up here in the beach area, in the Daytona Beach area. But sadly, last week, literally while we were live streaming, I got notice from the family that Hunter had been found in the retention pond somewhere near their home. It's unclear if there's no foul play expected at all at this time that will come forward. It was either a situation of an unaliving of himself possibly, or a slip and fall into the pond. There's no way to know that right now. And the most important thing is that this young man's life has been taken from him, and he no longer will be with his family, and they will be grieving him. So please send out your condolences and prayers if you're following along with me on Facebook or on my Twitter X feed, to this Gutierrez family from Davie, Florida. And they will let us know about his memorial service arrangements in case any of you that follow us and we're advocating for Hunter and you want to attend. I'll be able to give you that date. So rest in peace, Hunter, and we were honored to advocate for you and your family. So as you know, Wednesdays is our Angry Bitch Club, and this is our night to talk about things around the country in the cases that we're following, the victims that we're advocating for, and kind of have a little bit of a session together about things that aren't sitting right with us. So that's why we named it the Angry Bitch Club. And we're just supporting women who have gone through tragedy, and whether it's themselves and we're supporting their family members for that person that's somewhere with us, or if they're going through tragedy because they've lost that family member. And we are honoring the victims of domestic violence homicide and the survivors of domestic violence homicide. So you are welcome on the platform anytime. If you have a family member that has been a survivor or a victim of domestic violence, I welcome you. We have had Hannah on the platform. We've had Lavita on our platform. We've had Sarah. We've had many survivors of attempted domestic violence homicide, which is a horrific, horrible event to suffer and go through. And these women manage to survive and come on the other side, and they are willing to advocate for others, even though they have their own trauma to live with. So they're really, truly heroes. So we love having them back when they have the time. And this October, we'll be honoring all domestic violence victims and survivors during Domestic Violence Awareness Month, which is the whole month of October. So on Wednesdays for the Angry Bitch Club, we'll have special guests, survivors and family members of domestic violence and domestic violence homicide with us, sharing their stories and uplifting us with their courage. As you also know, on Wednesdays we swear. we have an idea that sometimes it's okay to swear, so we've decided to mark that as Wednesdays since this is our Angry Bitch Club, and we're not happy about things that are happening to our victims in their cases, in the solving of their cases, and the families who are standing by waiting for their cases to be solved and the justice to come to their loved one, and the person who unalived their loved one to finally be arrested. So on Wednesdays, we swear, trigger alert. So as you, most of you know, I am your host on Wednesdays, some Thursdays for Calling Out Corruption, where we work on cases with the families, and we occasionally will live stream with our family members and friends as we work on their cases. That's on Thursdays. And then on every Friday, we've been following the Karen Reed trial and the death of John O'Keefe with our Friday Night Live series on Friday nights, where we're also taking a look at everything else that's going on surrounding this very bizarre death of John O'Keefe and the what I believe and many of you believe was the wrongful arrest and the two trials of Karen Reed, who finally, after going through her second trial, was found not guilty. So the first trial was a hung jury. So we have covered that on since January, every Friday night, which was our Friday Night Lies episodes. And we appreciate all of you that have been joining us on Friday Night Lies. Tonight, I have a few new cases that I just want to go over with you and remind everyone that we always stand for victims of domestic violence and survivors of domestic violence, whatever night that we're live streaming and in all of our work. And every 9 minutes, a woman is beaten in this country. I'm sorry, seconds. Every 9 seconds, a woman is beaten in this country. And that's an outstanding, horrible number. And it has to come down. We have to figure out a way to get help to the women who are living in homes with domestic violence. It's such a difficult place to be. And it's just tragic that those are the numbers that we're looking at. So we need to prevent domestic violence. We know it's preventable. The research is there. People like Ellen Pence have done the research since the 80s on how domestic violence can be prevented and ended. And we have to do better to save these women's lives. And 3 of our victims that we stand for on Wednesday nights that we are advocating for justice for, we believe are all victims of domestic violence. In the case of Suzanne Morphew out of Colorado, her husband is currently in custody and awaiting his pre-trial and all of the motions that have to go before we can actually get before a jury trial. Will there be a plea deal? I don't know. He's claiming innocence again, like he did the first time he was arrested, but there's an awful lot of evidence, damning evidence, that points in his direction, in my opinion. Wonderful Ellen Greenberg, who we've been advocating for as well for over a year, who was found with 20 stab wounds, and it was ruled an unaliving of herself. And all of us that have followed that case, including everyone here at Social Change Warriors, believes that that's absolute crap, that there's no way she unalived herself with 20 stab wounds. A few of them, the second ME said were postmortem. So obviously, how is someone who's already deceased going to stab themselves 3 more times? But the law enforcement of Philadelphia police, in their wisdom, chose not to at all, not one day did they look into Ellen's case as a potential homicide. Not once. And then they urged the medical examiner, this has been proven, to change his recommendation from homicide to unaliving of herself 3 months later. She was unalived in January. It was ruled a homicide. And then 3 months later in April, it was overturned as an unaliving of herself when there was vigorous evidence that that could not have been the case and that it shouldn't have been the case. And major mistakes were made. There was no crime scene done, no CSI unit brought in. They never checked the apartment for much of anything other than the day of. They had the apartment cleaned. They gave the apartment complex permission to clean her apartment the following day. And her fiance was never a suspect, even though the autopsy report indicated she had bruises in various degrees of healing over her entire body, which is a clear sign that someone was striking her. And it's 1 + 1 = 2 here, people. Who was doing the striking and who administered those 20 stab wounds to Ellen Greenberg. So we will continue to follow along. Her parents won the suit that they had against the city, which was back in February, because they settled with the city. Once the city got the letter from the prior medical examiner, who now lives in Florida, that he was recanting and that he admitted he was wrong, that he should have never changed it from a homicide to an unaliving of herself, but that because he doesn't do the job in Philadelphia anymore, he can't change it there legally. So they took a settlement for a monetary amount based on all of the money they've had to spend on their own ME, private investigator, lawyers, to try to get justice for their daughter, Ellen. And the money was not the point. They were just trying to teach the government in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania a lesson about don't mess with parents. Parents will do everything and anything to vindicate the unnecessary, really cruel, violent death of their child. And in this case, Ellen's death was cruel and violent and premeditated, in my humble opinion. So we will continue to let you know updates on that. They're supposed to be waiting for the ME to make this determination that they are going to change her cause of death back to a homicide, which would then trigger an investigation into who killed Ellen Greenberg. So we will continue to bring you information on that. And then Sandra Birchmore, underneath Ellen's picture, we have been following just what was a horrific grooming by 4 police officers. We believe 4, only 1 is currently arrested. 2 of them have been decertified. 1 of them lives in a different state now, but there's only 1 in jail, and that's Matthew Farwell. And he is the one we believe unalived Sandra Birchmore and framed her for her own unaliving and got away with it for close to 2.5 years with help. In my opinion, there is no way he didn't have help because, again, Sandra's death was treated as an unaliving of herself, even though they didn't do a thorough investigation to determine if that was truly what happened to this poor young girl. And then, obviously, later on, her family, they were able to hire their own medical examiner, and they looked into her cause of death, which showed that there's no way she could have unalived herself by hanging because of the damage to her throat was inconsistent with being strangled. No, I'm not supposed to probably say any of those words any longer on YouTube because they have limited us on so much of what we can say, but we are not monetized. So I am allowed to say those words. Now, if I wanted to earn money off of my volunteerism, then I wouldn't want to say those words, but I can still say them because I'm not monetized. So that is what happened to a beautiful 13-year-old girl. She was groomed while she was in the Police Explorers program, in Stoughton, Massachusetts, and then became a teacher's aide in Stoughton, but was living in Canton. And when she was unalived, it happened in her apartment in Canton during a snowstorm, eerily similar to the timing of, as far as the date and the time of year. There was a nor'easter, which is exactly what was going on when John O'Keefe was unalived. But Sandra was unalived the year prior. And so they got away with it. Matthew Farwell with help. There's no doubt with help. So it's going to be very telling here in the next few months. He has still not gone to a preliminary hearing. He was arrested last August, and we're still waiting for a preliminary hearing, which he has not had. They keep pushing it because he was charged by the federal government, not by the state of Massachusetts. The state of Massachusetts has yet to charge Matthew Farwell with the unaliving of Sandra Birchmore. And Mizzy has her own channel. She has been the lead advocate for Sandra Birchmore for several years now. So we follow her. We get our updates from her when we can, or I go to the source where I have to. And if there's been a news clip on it, but Mizzy usually has all the info. So we're grateful to her for the advocacy that she has done in the area of Stoughton and Canton for this wonderful girl who did not ever deserve any of this. None of our victims ever do. No one deserves to be unalived by someone else. No matter what the grievance or the argument or the problems, no one has the right to take someone else's life without some type of form of justice and punishment. So we'll continue to keep you updated on Sandra Birchmore, Ellen Greenberg, and Suzanne Morphew as their justice cases go forward here in the next few months. And we hope there will be resolution and that all of those men who unalive these beautiful women will pay for their crime and for what they did. Last week, we introduced you to Manisa Fletcher, and I am still working on getting information and trying to connect with the family. This was what I believe a wrongful death in the hands of the Marion County Sheriff's Jail. And if you recall from last week, Manisa was having a little bit of a mental health crisis, which led her to get arrested for potentially for shoplifting. Allegedly, I haven't seen any proof yet that she actually shoplifted a damn thing, but I'm waiting to see the police reports on that. And sadly, she passed away of complications to her epilepsy. But there's a lot of doubt. The family has doubt. I have doubt. Many people online who have been advocating for Manisa and for how many deaths that have happened in the Marion County Jail, they are way ahead of the national average of when people pass away in jail. It's usually either from old age, if they were arrested as an elderly person, or if they had been in jail for a while and maybe they got COVID or had something happen, but natural causes, not harm, or there is harm. There are times in jail and prisons where other prisoners harm other prisoners, and then they are unalived. And then there's this lack of care section where I believe that there was a lack of care for Manisa. She was having mental health concerns, and in my opinion, she should have been moved to a hospital, to a psychiatric ward where they could have treated her. What went on in the jail with her sounds like she was having really bad, maybe seeing things, maybe not knowing what she was doing, striking out, acting out in the jail, which caused them to put more charges on her, which left her in jail longer. Somebody who was already having mental health concerns is now being forced to stay in jail longer because they didn't follow through with the correct protocol for someone who is having some type of schizophrenia or some type of a mental health breakdown. So this Manisa should have never, ever died in the hands in custody. And this is atrocious. And I'm so sorry. My deepest condolences for her family. So I'll continue to do what I can to find out more information. I'm trying to reach out to family members to get back to me if they'd like to come on with us and talk about what happened to Manisa. But I have a message also into records and a message into the Marion County Sheriffs. They know me from the Sarah Ebersol case, so they may not be quick to return my calls. They know I'm an advocate and that I'm pushing, for answers for Sarah Ebersol and for some of the other victims in Marion County that have no justice and that are still missing, or that we believe their cases were wrongfully settled. So we'll be back with more on Manisa as soon as we have more information. So thank you so much. What I wanted to mention to you tonight and talk to you about is a case I have not brought up yet. I didn't know about it. It was not really in the mainstream media. We've talked about this before, how certain cases just aren't sexy enough for the mainstream media. They don't make it, and most of us never hear about them. And in some ways, for those of you that do not follow true crime or do not choose to advocate for victims of homicide, that's probably a good thing, because it would overwhelm most people. It overwhelms me a lot of the time, how many of our wonderful fellow citizens and community members are being unalived in this country by someone they know, a family member, a friend, a spouse, or in some cases a stranger, and which is very rare. A woman being unalived by a stranger is actually very rare. And we've always preached to our girls on college campuses and in high school, and even when they're in middle school, don't walk alone, don't walk at night alone, always have a buddy, don't go camping alone, don't go hiking alone, everything, just don't do it alone. If you're a woman, it's dangerous. But the statistics don't say that. The stats say that someone is more dangerous. The person you're dating or married to, or were married to, or were dating, they're the most dangerous. 85% of women are unalived by someone they know, and 62% of that 85 is either their boyfriend or their significant other, their lover. So the fact that this beautiful young lady, Logan, was unalived by a stranger is quite rare. And what's really rare about it is that the person who unalived her had been committing crimes for years, and they should have been in jail. And it sounds to me like they are somewhat of a psychotic criminal. This doesn't sound like any kind of a person who's, got their act together and just commits burglary or shoplifts occasionally. This sounds like someone who actually has a psychosis involving committing crimes and breaking the law, just from the little bit I've been able to learn about it. So Logan was 22 years old when her life was taken. My life mattered, Logan. We're so sorry, and we're so sorry for your family and your friends and your loved ones. She takes a break from 2 jobs and classes at South Piedmont Community College in Waxhaw, North Carolina, to spend a weekend, supposed to be fun, right? Visiting friends who attend USC, which is the University of South Carolina. We've got 2 USCs in this country, and depending on what coast you're on, you can get confused. There's my USC, which is the University of Southern California, where I did my master's. This is the University of South Carolina, just to my north, in Columbia, South Carolina. The aspiring teacher and her friends, they returned from a night out just before 3 a.m. And unbeknownst to them, there was actually, and I don't have this whole thing written out for you, but I'm going to show you a clip. There was a robbery going on right next door. So this person who unalived Logan was actually next door, breaking in, and I don't think anyone was there, or if they were, they didn't wake up, but he was stealing things from them, and apparently that eventually stole their car. Then he came next door, broke into where Logan was staying, and was attempting to steal things from in the house, and nobody was waking up. But sadly, her parents found out much later. They thought she had been unalived in her sleep, but they found out much later that she was unalived after she woke up and tried to maybe kick this person out or alert this person, like, hey, get out of my house. And they shot her, and she passed. And it's just a tragedy of epic proportions, because, as I was saying, this person has committed many, many crimes prior to this crime, prior to these burglaries, robberies, and the unaliving of Logan. So it truly was a horrible case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time, which some people have died that way. They didn't know the person, they didn't know the perpetrator. And this is just a terrible, terrible loss of life, and could have been prevented, because this person most certainly should have been in jail. So I'm just going to share my screen with you here. So give me a moment and just show you a clip. Nancy Grace covered this. She was the first of any media that I've seen cover it, which she typically is for many of these cases. So let me bring her up. Just give me a moment here. Oh, I'm sorry. I might have to, we'll have to go up and grab the link. So just give me a second. Take a stretch break if you need one. I'm just going to be right back. I just have to run up here to my Google Doc where I keep all my files, and I'll bring up the link, and then then I can share my screen with you. All right, I've got the link. So let me try and do this over again. Let me share the screen with you, and we'll take a little look at what Nancy Grace had to say. Trigger alert. This is very hard to hear. It's heartbreaking for the family and friends of this beautiful college co-ed who was just trying to have fun, take a break from her normal life. And she, like I said, she truly was in the wrong place at the wrong time. But this could have been prevented. This person should have never been out free. They should have either been in a psychiatric hospital for the rest of their lives, or arrested for the crimes that they had already committed. So let's take a listen. Thank you, Nancy Grace.
Tonight, a beautiful co-ed found dead in a pool of blood. USC Fraternity Row neighborhood. What happened to Logan? Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us.
Logan Federico is a 22-year-old girl with a promising, bright future ahead, but a weekend trip with friends takes a deadly turn.
You know, I don't like what he just said. It takes a deadly turn.
Right. I agree,
she
Nancy.
just got lost somehow, and now she's dead in a pool of blood.
Exactly.
It was not a deadly turn. She was murdered. At first, we were told she was killed in her sleep, just like we were told in the Koberger prosecution. Oh, the 4 victims were killed in their sleep, like they fell asleep.
I applied to over 35
Sorry
jobs
about
on
that.
LinkedIn
Gotta
and
get
got
rid of
0
the commercial
responses.
here.
Then I found jobhire.ai, and now I finally landed my dream remote job.
And they never woke up. That's not what happened there, and that's not what happened here. She was forced out of bed naked to kneel at the feet of her killer before she was executed dead in cold blood. That's what happened. Listen to what we know.
Investigators believe the suspect breaks into one of the Cypress Street homes, and he steals keys to a vehicle and several items, including a firearm. The suspect also breaks into the home next door. These houses are side by side. And he steals several items, including a wallet and credit and debit cards. While in this residence, we believe that he enters a room where Miss Logan is located and fires a fatal shot.
That from our friends at WLTX and Blunt Force Media. Yeah, everything he said was right, but it's not like he enters a room where Miss Logan is located and fires a fatal shot. No, she was dragged, forced out of her bed where she's asleep, buck naked, and forced to kneel down on her knees. This young co-ed girl in the Fraternity Row neighborhood, minding her own business, kneeling down in front of the assailant, and he shoots her point blank. That's a lot different from the perp, enters a room where Miss Logan is and fires a fatal shot. No, that is not the way this went down. What more do we know?
22-year-old Logan Federico takes a break from her 2 jobs and classes at South Piedmont Community College in Waxhaw, North Carolina, to spend a weekend visiting friends who attend USC in Columbia, South Carolina. The aspiring teacher lets loose with her friends. Returning home on Cypress Street, the group quickly dispersed to their rooms, planning to sleep late Saturday morning.
Joining us, an all-star panel. But first, I want to go out to a special guest joining us. We've all heard of Fit News before. Fit's News leaped to the forefront of the national consciousness when Alex Murdaugh murdered his wife and son. And joining me right now, Jen Wood, Director of Research at fitsnews.com. Jen, thank you for being with us. First of all, where was this? I understand is there University of South Carolina Fraternity Row neighborhood?
So it is a neighborhood that's very popular for students. It's about a half mile to a mile from the University of South Carolina campus, right by 5 Points, where all the kids go to the bars, and a lot of fraternity members have houses there. So yeah, it's what, as a parent, you would hope it would be a safe place for your kid to be.
Jen Wood, the way this is being portrayed, it makes it sound like she was asleep and then she's dead. That is not at all what happened.
No, it is not at all what happened. It was a brutal, brutal homicide. It was so unnecessary. And, just seeing this young woman, starting her life out, die in that manner. And then her father, Steve, also told me that not only did she she died that horrific death, but she laid there for 7 hours before anybody discovered her.
You know what's really interesting too? Mark Pepper joining us from this jurisdiction, a veteran trial lawyer, I might add, at the Pepper Law Firm. Mark, why is it that we heard so much about the Koberger case, which rightfully we should have, because it never did go to trial? No telling what would have happened if we hadn't been watching it. But nobody is talking about Logan's case. And it's essentially the same scenario. A perv who goes from house to house to house, burgling. And Dr. Sherry Schwartz is going to explain the weird thrill burglars get from pilfering around in your home like Koberger.
So this is a really good point that Nancy makes. And I've brought this up before in different live streams that we've had where we've been covering, victims of homicide and advocating for them. And why does one case get the national media attention and not another? What's the line? What's the bar? It's so frustrating for families. And I mean, the Sarah Ebersol case, for instance, the one that I've been advocating with her sister Michelle and all of Sarah's soldiers over in Marion County, just 2 hours to my west. Why is a missing mother who literally disappeared into thin air? She was at a party. They were on Snapchat. There were photos taken. There's surveillance photos of there's her phone pinging of her at a gas station with another person at 4 or 5 in the morning, and then nothing. Her phone goes quiet. There's no use of her credit cards, her debit cards, her phone, any of her social media accounts. She's just missing, and no evidence of foul play, no evidence of struggle or blood evidence at her house where she was living, where she was renting a room from a friend. They never searched the car of the person that was later named as a person of interest, Tyrone Mormon. And she just disappeared 2.5 years ago. Why is her case not in the national media? Gabby Petito, rest in peace. And my condolences to your family. But that case went national within days. Everybody was covering it. Everybody was talking about it. Everyone was looking for Gabby when she was missing. And I'm glad they were. I have nothing against her beautiful family or what terror she went through when she was unalived. But Sarah was in the same age group, but Sarah was a mother. She left a child behind. What is the bar we have to meet, media? What is the bar family members have to meet for you to cover the unaliving of their loved one, to get justice for them, to help get a community behind them? And this is no different for Logan. Again, there were 4 people unalived in Idaho, but 1 life, 2 lives, 3 lives, 4 lives. I mean, if someone's unalived, that's it. They've been taken from their family. They don't get to live. And that's by the hands of someone else. That should be newsworthy. They should all be able to be newsworthy so that we know as a society what's happening. What's happening to our friends and our community members out there. So I found that to be intriguing. So let's take a listen now. Nancy can be hard on her guests. So I was almost a guest on her show for the Sarah Ebersol missing persons, which we're grateful that Sarah's sister Michelle was able to secure that spot. And I was almost going to be included in that. But I got to tell you, I was shaking in my boots because it is not easy being on the Nancy Gray show. She calls it like she sees it. So let's go back and take a listen to what she has to say and what this attorney has to say.
He comes in, finds this beautiful girl, a co-ed, and murders her. And at first we're told, oh, it all happened in her sleep. Like somehow that's going to make it better. But that's not what happened. She knew she was being attacked and was even forced to kneel naked in front of the killer.
Tragic set of events, no doubt, and I commend you for bringing attention to it. I will say that it is early in not only the investigation, but the prosecution of the case. I don't think that this is just a problem that our system provides here in South Carolina, but nationally, law enforcement has to perform their due diligence, just like the defense is entitled to build a defense.
I'm
so
sorry,
we're very
I
early
just
on in this
choked
proceeding.
right then.
Here she goes.
Put him up.
She's going to let him have it.
Due diligence. My rear end due diligence. This guy has a rap sheet as long as I-75. He's a career criminal. Jackie,
The
how many
I-75.
entries? 25 felonies. Okay. 25
25.
felonies under his belt.
Terrible.
Due diligence. And he was out on the street because of a clerical error. That is not due diligence, Pepper.
Well, due diligence should have been done clearly leading up to this event, and it needs to be done now. Nancy, there's an investigation that's going on. We don't know the facts and circumstances other than what we've been told, which is not a whole lot from the City of Columbia Police Chief, to your point. I'm simply pointing out that
I know a thing or two about assholes, and they're more sensitive than you may think.
There's something else.
Your normal role of
as the investigation continues, I think more will come to light, and hopefully maybe we start talking about Logan, rightfully so. But in the meantime, the defendant is entitled to his day in court. He's going to get his day in court. He's also entitled to the constitutional protections of being a defendant. And I suspect that is being weighed with the interest of the victim and the family. And it's probably being played a little close to the vest at this point. I suspect more information will come out as days develop.
Yeah, because I'm going to get the information and I'm going to put it out there close to the vest, not releasing information. That's a very far cry, Mark Pepper, from releasing misinformation, such as she died in her sleep. It's like she had a bad dream and never woke up. Like maybe she had an aneurysm or a heart attack, maybe a heart defect, and she just drifted off and never came back. No, that's not what happened at all. Listen to this.
Saturday morning, the brothers and their visiting friends are awoken with a start. A gunshot just rang out inside their home. The panicked young men and women gather in the living room, but Logan hasn't come out of the guest room. Her friends burst through the door to check on her and find Logan unconscious, lying in a pool of blood, her belongings ransacked.
So it seems as if she was shot dead and then the room was ransacked for money or any other valuable. That's cold. That is cold. And I want to go out to Dr. Eric Eason, board certified forensic pathologist and consultant. You can find him on Facebook, Eric August Eason. Dr. Eason, thank you for being with us. Dr. Eason, question. She wasn't found for at least 7 hours. Will that hinder the medical examiner's quest to find out what happened to her? And this is really important, Eason, because I want to clarify and confirm that she was kneeling down in front of the killer when he shot her. And I'm only going to be able to corroborate that with the trajectory path of the bullet.
Right.
Explain.
Okay. So yeah, sawed-off shotgun. So there would have been multiple pellets involved, whether it was birdshot or buckshot. Multiple pellets would have been recovered from her during the actual autopsy, and the trajectory would have been all over, because once pellets entered the body, they go all over the place, and so it's usually going front to back, but it's all going up or down. We have this thing called a billiard ball effect, where all the pellets just kind of spread once they enter the body.
Dr. Eric Eason.
Sorry, I forgot to. I've been trying to warn you guys because this is a graphic episode with Nancy. Trigger alert on the shooting of this young girl, Logan, by a perpetrator, a robber, who broke into the home of where she was visiting and was attempting to steal from those in the home. And they were all sleeping, but she woke up and faced her killer. And it's just horrible. And what's really terrible is that they led the family to believe, for whatever reason, the investigators, that she was asleep, that he shot her in her sleep. So I guess I don't know if they were trying to spare the family until they absolutely had to tell them, but she, according to her, the autopsy and what this doctor is telling you, but I wanted to stop it for a minute to give you the trigger alert. She was not asleep, and they believe that she confronted him, and that was based on the wound, the trajectory of the bullet. He used a sawed-off shotgun, which does an immense amount of damage. There's very rarely any coming back from that. I mean, you can, but it was such close range as well. This poor young girl just trying to have a fun weekend with her friends, absolutely in the wrong place at the wrong time, as I said earlier. But this person had 25 felonies, and they'd been out running the streets, committing crime after crime for many years, and in and out of the system, but never in long enough, and never to stay, obviously. It sounds like this person has a severe mental issue with committing crimes. I'll speak more to that in a moment. So let's go back to the doctor. But again, this is a trigger alert. It's very alarming. Hard to hear.
And
Yes.
just slow down because that's a lot of information.
Right.
Okay. A shotgun releases a burst of tiny pellets as opposed
right.
to, let's just say, a 22 or any other handgun,
Right.
which releases one bullet at a time, unless you
That's
got
right.
a semi or an automatic. Anyway, but even with a shotgun releasing multiple pellets, you can still get a trajectory path, even though there are multiple pellets going different ways.
You can get an overall path. Once they enter the body, you know, if the entrance wound for the pellets is on the chest, on the front of the body, they're all going to go front to back, but some are going to be going up, some are going to be going down, left, right, etc. So you can get an overall trajectory of front to back. That's certain for sure.
Hello, Nancy Grace here. To all of you homeowners, when's the last time you checked on your home title?
Yes,
If the
we
answer
do
is
have little
never,
pads.
well, this is for you. Scammers steal home titles. Your equity is the target. Criminals forge your signature, and just like that, your home title. Lock.com. That includes ring of your title. They will spend up to Nancy. Dr. Eric Eason, you mentioned a sawed off. Jen Wood, was the weapon a sawed off shotgun?
That's what we were told.
Barry Hutchinson, help me out here. I've had cases with sawed offs. People carry a saw off because they can conceal it.
Right.
A shotgun's this big and a sawed off is this big, right?
That's right.
Correct.
A sawed off in itself is a crime. To own a sawed off shotgun is a crime in itself, Barry. What is this convicted felon doing with a sawed off?
Well,
They're all
you know,
doing with
Nancy,
them.
to me,
Put
after
them
reviewing the
illegally.
entire
They
case,
buy 'em on the
we're
street.
looking at the schematics of the case in itself. I'm looking at the thing is it never should have happened to begin with. Why is this guy on the street?
Eating too much salt causes hypertension, right? Nope. What about too much bacon and red meat? Nope. It's actually.
I mean, he's got, like you said earlier, he's got a rap sheet as long as your leg. And there's just been a failure on the level of the judicial system. I mean, it's a shame that this young lady lost her life because of the incompetence of
It's
the system.
terrible. It's just utterly
And
terrible.
I mean, we're looking at everything hindsight 2020 from this, but the fact of the matter is, in my mind, that it never should have taken place.
Hutchinson, I like you, man. 26 years in LE, law enforcement, detective, owner, chief investigator, Barry and Associates Investigative Services.
Yep.
But you're not a preacher. Don't preach to the choir about this guy should have been behind bars.
Right.
I'm asking you, is possession of a sawed-off shotgun a felony?
It's a federal felony.
So that would be a yes?
It would be a yes.
Pepper, jump in. What is this
Pepper's
guy
afraid to
doing?
jump back in.
A career criminal.
You don't want nothing more to do
breaking
with
in
this.
on this girl in the shadow of Fraternity Row, where everybody spends all their money and their hopes and their dreams, and they get their child into college, and then this guy is skulking around. He's the new Brian Koberger, and comes in, gets this girl out of bed naked, makes her kneel down in front of him to shoot her. And the last thing I want to do, this is getting a tiger by the tail, is to argue with Dr. Eric Eason. But while a shotgun trajectory is much more complex than a single bullet because of the pellet spray, you can get the trajectory based on external ballistics like the pellet size, the velocity, the choke, the pattern, the range. Now, shotguns are not meant for pinpoint accuracy, but you can absolutely, even though it's a cluster of pellets and they spray out as they travel, you can still get a trajectory path. And why do I care? Because I believe the prosecutor can prove, whether this guy gives a confession or not, that he had her kneeling down in front of him when he murdered her with a sawed-off, Pepper.
Which she clearly was not allowed to possess, purchase, or even carry around with him at any point in time. It's not only against federal law, but it's against state law here in South Carolina. Not only because
But here's the thing, guys. It doesn't matter to the family of this beautiful young girl if he was legally allowed to possess a shot-off shotgun or not. He was going to get one. Criminals do criminal, okay? Criminals are going to crime. That's what they do. So they don't need a permit. They don't need to go through a background check. They don't need to do anything to legally carry any kind of gun because they don't carry guns legally. They go get them illegally. So until we can rid our streets completely of illegal guns, and not a single illegal gun is out there, the criminals are going to keep getting guns. So you can preach to the choir, as Nancy likes to say, all about law and all about why this guy shouldn't have had a gun and why this beautiful, wonderful person who was someone's child should still be alive and going to college and planning to be a teacher. But the criminals are going to get the guns and they're going to crime. So what needed to happen here is what her parents need to ask the questions, and for any type of justice and any solace, they can get it all, is get answers to the questions. Why was this person even on the streets? Why had they committed 25 felonies and they're still on the street? There's obviously something very, very wrong with them, because this makes you basically a career criminal to be only 30 years old and have 25 felonies, right?
you can't have a sawed-off shotgun, period. But because of his prior record as a felon, he was not allowed to own a shotgun. I will say, however, that the reason he was able to be on the streets and be in that fraternity row is because of the judicial system. He was placed on probation for his last
please just
conviction.
stop. Would
Now,
you
look,
are you trying to tell me? Okay, here you go.
Nancy,
Are you trying
not
to say
arguing.
let it roll,
it's
Nancy.
the system's fault? Yeah, it's their
Well-
fault they let him out on a clerical error. But nobody made him break in on Logan and shoot her dead, let her dead body lay there 7 hours in a pool of blood while he looks around to see if he can find some spare change. It's
totally
not
agree.
the probation department, the sheriff's
Well-
fault. It's not the judge. It's not the calendar clerk. It's his fault.
It is clearly his fault if he's proven guilty of this crime, but it is the fault of the judicial system if you're looking to place blame elsewhere
True.
regarding some types of errors. I would make the valid argument based on his rap sheet that I'm not seeing a clerical error. What I'm seeing is conviction after conviction after conviction,
Right.
yet somehow, be it through the state, through the prosecutor's office, or through the sentencing judges, he's just never doing much time.
Unbeknownst to the sleeping college students, a burglar is on the prowl in the quiet neighborhood, rummaging through nearby homes. The neighborhood is home to USC fraternity brothers, and with each roommate on a different schedule, doors are seldom locked. The burglar gains access, walking right through one of the doors without a sound to alert anyone of his presence.
Hi, guys. Nancy Grace here. Are you worried about harmful
It's tough. It makes you almost speechless. How is a 30-year-old with 25 felonies allowed to be out running around the city, Columbia, and not be in jail or be in some type of a psychiatric hospital? If that's the case with this man, that he is criminally having criminal insane issues. And it sounds like there's something very, very wrong, obviously, with this person, that they absolutely had no problem taking the life of this young girl for absolutely no reason, for small change, a cell phone, whatever electronics that could have been in the room. It's utterly disgusting and despicable. And my condolences go out to Logan's family and friends and fellow students, and to those students in the house, because now they are no different than the surviving two roommates in Idaho. Sorry about that. My phone went off. They're no different. They have to live through survivor's guilt now. They, in this case, even in almost a different way, because Logan didn't live there. She was a visitor. She was their company. And of all the rooms she just happened to wake up. Had she stayed sleeping, I'm thinking he would have stole as much as he could steal and been and gone. But it's just a travesty. And again, why no media attention for her passing? Why does no one know about this outside the city of Columbia, basically, until South Carolina, until Nancy Grace brings it to the forefront? And it's the same with Where is Sarah Ebersol? Nobody outside of Florida, other than people that watch my channel and are willing to come and be with us here on Social Change Warriors on Wednesdays, some Thursdays, and Friday nights, know about a lot of our victims that we're advocating for, because we like to work with the families. So we get in touch with the families and we try to help them process what's happened to their loved one and do whatever we can to weed through the police reports and advocate for them and try to help them get to that next level, that Nancy Grace level, or that Gavin Fish level, surviving the survivor level. That's why it's difficult, though, for families, because their child mattered as much as the other child. Logan matters as much as Kaylee and Maddie and Ethan and Xana. So thanks, everyone. This was I'll have more on Logan and what happened to her in South Carolina and what's happening right now with the case against the perpetrator next week. So for now, I want to move on to another just outrageous situation that is also in Massachusetts, where the John O'Keefe and Karen Reed case is, and also where Sandra Birchmore took place. So give me just a moment and I'll bring up our next victim that we want to speak of and advocate for. So I'm going to share my screen with you again here. I just have to move over to the next tab. So give me just a moment and I shall do that. Okay. So this is the case of Enrique Delgado Garcia, and he was unalived while he was in training with the Massachusetts State Police. And this happened over 11 months ago now. This story, I believe, is from May. So I have another clip we can listen to as well, but this is the most I could see. But I'm going to read you a statement from his family from today that was on Twitter X. But first, I'll show you the little background of what happened to him. They have not investigated this as an unaliving that was that shouldn't have happened. That could have been possibly a brutal attack on Enrique by his fellow Massachusetts State Police trainees. They're treating it as an accidental boxing match type incident that caused him to have a hemorrhage in his brain. But that is not at all what many think happened based on the autopsy. So rest in peace, Enrique. And we're so sorry for your loss to your family. And we'll take a listen here to the background of what happened to him.
Last September. His family says they still don't know why he died. Our NBC 10 consumer investigative reporter Bianca Beltran has new details tonight about who is part of the team that is hired to conduct an independent investigation and what happens next for the academy.
Every morning, Jose Perez said his wife cries for her son, Enrique Delgado Garcia.
Ella llora toda la mañana.
It's been 6 months since the 25-year-old died after participating in a boxing training at the Massachusetts State Police Academy. His family says they still don't have answers about what went wrong that day. The Attorney General appointed former prosecutor David Meyer to lead an independent investigation into his death. Meyer hired 8 investigators to his team. Lisa Holmes oversaw the Boston Police Academy and internal investigations. Norma Ayala Leong, also a former supervisor at the Boston Training Academy. Paul Joyce supervised Boston PD's Anti-Gang Unit and Criminal Investigations Bureau, now a professor of criminal justice. Robert Harrington was supervisor of BPD's Homicide Unit and Bureau of Internal Affairs. Thomas Larned and Kimberly Lawrence are former FBI special agents, now with investigative firms. Gretchen Lundgren is a former assistant district attorney in Suffolk County and former special assistant U.S. attorney, now a security specialist. And Edith Ayuso is a former witness advocate for the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office. Meyer said she works with him during their regular meetings with the family of Delgado Garcia. In an email, Meyer said no member of the investigative team has any past or present affiliation with the Massachusetts State Police.
These are people of high integrity.
A retired judge and adjunct faculty member at Boston College Law, Jack Liu, says while he believes their varied experience in law enforcement will be beneficial to the investigation, the amount of time the investigation is taking may raise questions.
I worry that when we do police investigations, we take too long, and that can make people think that the police get special treatment, and we don't want that.
Each day that goes by,
y tengo fe en las autoridades.
Jose Perez says he has faith that the authorities will reach a conclusion about what happened. Now, as this investigation continues, the Massachusetts State Police is in the process of selecting independent experts to conduct a comprehensive review of the Academy's programs and practices. Now, in a statement, Colonel Jeffrey Noble said, quote, "The department has commissioned an independent assessment to provide valuable insight into the ways in which our training can best equip recruits to become highly skilled, community-focused troopers." He continued to say, "We remain committed to ensuring that all training, curriculum, staff instruction, and physical space fosters professionalism, integrity, and excellence while prioritizing the health and well-being of our recruits." Now, the boxing program remains suspended, and the Academy plans to implement a pilot program that will divide up this year's class into two smaller cohorts, one beginning in May and another in October. And they say this approach will provide the opportunity for the Academy instructors to better address the individual needs of each recruit. In the studio, I'm Bianca Beltran, NBC 10 Boston. Boxing training at the Massachusetts State Police Academy.
So again, just a tragic loss of life while he was a recruit for the Massachusetts State Police. It's good to hear that they've suspended this boxing training academy, but for the life of me, I don't understand why that was even necessary or in place. I've spoken to several fellow law enforcement officers who are retired like myself, and that was not something that was ever part of any police academy that we were part of in Wisconsin, or that I've ever heard of from other law enforcement officers that I've met through the years in my travels, why they would have a boxing academy. You're never going to have to fight to that level. That's my opinion. Maybe another cop has a different opinion, but if you're fighting to that level while you're in uniform and you're trying to arrest a subject, that is not good. And you should already have backup there. That is not going to go well for you if you're having to engage in that level of a hand combat with someone that you're trying to arrest. So, and I've been in a hand combat with someone I was trying to arrest. So I can tell you it is not good. And you don't ever want that as a law enforcement officer to happen to you. And you want to prevent it at all costs. So you want to use what they call verbal judo, which is talking the suspect down, not coming up to the suspect's level. If they're trying to fight you, you're trying to de-escalate in whatever way you can, whether you're using your pepper spray or you may have to use your baton. But you should, at that point, if it's gone to that level, you should have already called for backup, already have backup there. So why he was being trained to box at this level and the injuries that he sustained, missing teeth, concussion. I'm trying to think I'm going to talk more about this next week because I have to look more into his actual autopsy report. But it was not just from a stray punch to the face that caused this aneurysm to happen or that caused this brain damage to occur. I mean, it sounds like he was beaten to a pulp, basically. I mean, it's utterly sickening, and that should never happen in training. And why it's like what they were just saying, why is it taking so long? Why it gives the public a bad taste in their mouth that it takes this long when police are involved, when the police possibly did something wrong. So let me read you a statement from his, I believe his cousin, Julio Garcia Mazara. To our beloved Enrique Alexander Delgado Garcia, Today, August 13th, marks 11 months since you went to be with God. Although your physical absence remains a deep pain in our hearts, your memory lives on in each of us. Your smile, kindness, and unconditional love remain intact in our minds, like a beacon that guides us and gives us strength to move forward. You were and will always be an exemplary son, brother, nephew, and friend. And you left us with lessons of humility, respect, and service to others, treasures we hold as your greatest legacy. Your family remembers you with eternal love and trust that one day we will meet again. Until then, we carry you in our hearts and in every prayer. With love, your family. Justice for Enrique. So again, to your family, I'm so sorry. I'm grateful that you made that post today. I've been following along with what happened, the tragedy. I like to get permission from families to work with the families when I advocate for you on either Wednesdays or Thursdays. And I've reached out to someone in your family, but I haven't heard back. So I understand if you don't choose to have me advocate for you, but I will advocate in this small way. And that's why I hadn't done any live shows yet on the tragic passing of Enrique. But we will continue to follow along with justice for him. And hopefully we may be able to hear back from a family member. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you joining me tonight to talk about these two new cases, two social change warriors that we have not advocated for yet on this level. Usually I do get permission from families and I reach out to families before we advocate. But in a few cases I did not have permission from John O'Keefe, and I'm still advocating for him. And I will continue to advocate for John O'Keefe on our Friday Night Lies live stream with Julie. But I do like to have the family on board and run by them what I'm doing in my advocacy. So I will continue to try to reach out to Enrique's family, but we will still stand for advocacy for him and as well for Logan, and follow along with what is coming up for pretrial conference and hearings for the man that was arrested. And I'll give you more background into that man next week. And I will be back Friday night with Julie for Friday Night Lies. We have a lot to talk about there. Aiden Kearney had another hearing today, and it was just a shit show. So it's Thursdays, I can swear. Just an absolute shit show. I was so disgusted by what I saw in that hearing today, with just the lack of organization by the Commonwealth, still not handing over discovery to his defense lawyers for the charges of the witness intimidation, and how long they've dragged this out. It's just crazy. It's just a mockery of justice, first of all, against his journalism, First Amendment rights. So we'll be talking about that on Friday. There was also a bizarre incident this week with Aiden Kearney, Turtle Boy News, and Joel from Surviving the Survivor. It's too much to even discuss right now, but we'll mention it on Friday night, because I find both of them have merits in what they do and what they cover, and their advocacy and calling out corruption. And I hate to see two content creators with as many followers as they have a disagreement and have it loudly on social media and on their live streams. So I do have an opinion on it, and I'll share that with you a little bit on Friday, but I'm not going to say too much. It's not my place, but I think I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention it a little bit on Friday night. And then Friday night, we're going to really kind of delve back into who killed John O'Keefe. This man has no justice. There were two trials to try to convict his girlfriend, Karen Reed, of killing him, but neither trial was successful in that. The first one was a hung jury. The second one, they acquitted her, found her not guilty. So if we are all to believe that she did not have a hand in this, that she did not hit John O'Keefe with her car, then who killed John O'Keefe? So we're going to go back and take a look at some of the lies that we were showing you on past Friday Night Lies, and take a look a little bit further into where were Chris and Julie Elbert that night. I don't think they were where they said they were. I don't think they were home in their bed. That's just my opinion, but it's also many people's opinion out there this week. It's been heavily talked about on social media. And also, what has happened with this evidence drop that Aiden's lawyers received, and it appears that they have received text messages that were between Jen McCabe and Ellie McCabe that she doesn't know they have, she didn't know they had, that the law enforcement had, because she had asked for everything to be deleted that had to do with her and her children, and she believed that had happened. Well, apparently that did not happen, and now there are some, sounds like, this is just in my opinion from what I've heard from Aiden in his interview with Melanie Little after he left court today, but it sounds like there might be some nefarious text messages that were going on February 2nd between Jen and Allie. So this will be something to look into. I will let you know what I can find out through research and checking out Aiden's channel and his lawyer's channel. They post with him, and Betterow may post another letter, which will be very interesting to talk about. And of course, Julie always has and brings great topics and videos to share with us on everything that's going on with the various cases in Massachusetts. So thank you, everyone. To all of our families, our condolences always. We will continue to advocate for you here at Social Change Warriors. We will continue to do whatever we can to help you get justice for your loved one, because hashtag My Life Mattered. And that's what I would like you to use when you go on our socials. The loved ones in heaven are calling out to us, and they're telling us my life mattered, and we need to help them get justice. Thank you. I hope you all have a really good night, and I'll be back on Friday. Just us.
They try to silence the truth we shout, but we're still here, we're still calling out. Corruption hides behind a badge of name. We light the fire, expose the shame. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight for every voice lost in the night. My life mattered is the cry we sing for the ones they tried to bury within. It's just us, we're a movement wide. Together we rise, won't run nor hide. The stories echo, the pain runs deep. For stolen lives we can't just weep. Elected power, but their hearts are cold. We'll bring the truth, let it be told. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight for every voice lost in the night. My life mattered is the cry we sing for the ones they tried to bury within. It's just us, we're a movement wide. Together we rise, won't run nor hide. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight for heal wounds, undo the harm. Calling out corruption, we'll stand tall for justice and truth, we'll risk it all. My life mattered is the cry we sing. Together we rise, let freedom ring. They try to silence the truth we shout, but we're still here, we're still calling out. Corruption hides behind a badge of name. We light the fire, expose the shame. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight for every voice lost in the night. My life mattered is the cry we sing for the ones they tried to bury within. It's just us, we're a movement wide. Together we rise, won't run nor hide. The stories echo, the pain runs deep. For stolen lives we can't just weep. Elected power but their hearts are cold. We'll bring the truth, let it be told. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight for every voice lost in the night. My life mattered is the cry we sing for the ones they tried to bury within. It's just us, we're a movement wide. Together we rise, won't run nor hide. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight for heal wounds, undo the harm. Calling out corruption, we'll stand tall for justice and truth, we'll risk it all.